Good morning, dear students. Once again, welcome back to the English literature class. Today, we are continuing with the same poem, unit number 4, After Blenheim, written by Robert Southey, part 4. So, we have seen the explanation given by old Casper in order to clear the doubts of his grandchildren, Peterkin and Wilhelmine. So he had told the number of after effects, the number of impacts, the different problems faced by the people due to the war. But still he was not able to give a proper reason. What was the reason behind the war? He was not able to give a proper reason. So finally we can say that he was not able to clear the doubts of his grandchildren. Here we are going to see the last two stanzas of this poem. Great praise the Duke of Marlborough and our good Prince Eugene. Why it was a very wicked thing, said little Wilhelmine. Nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, 'twas a famous victory. A few new words are there for you. Duke Marlborough, he was the English general, he led the English army. Then Prince Eugene, he was the Austrian general. And there is one more word, nay, nay, which means no, negation of something. Now let's see what is the meaning of this stanza. Great praise the Duke of Marlborough and our good Prince Eugene. Why it was a very wicked thing, said little Wilhelmine. Nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, 'twas a famous victory. So again, old Casper continues saying that it was a very big war and its consequences were very huge and its destruction was very big. And again he says that it was a great victory. Why? Because a great prize the Duke of Marlborough won. Because in the war, the British people, they won. And that's why the leader of the general or the commander who led the army from the British side, who was Duke of Marlborough. So he needs a special praise because under his leadership the country's army was able to defeat their enemy. The Britain got a great victory because their leader. So a great prize the Duke of Marlborough won. And our good Prince Eugene is another character who played an important role in the war. So he also needs a special appreciation. So after listening to all the different explanation of old Casper, Wilhelmine still was having a doubt. What was her doubt? The little Wilhelmine asked her grandfather, why? It was a very wicked thing. Why we have to praise these two people, these leaders, the people who contributed so much in the war? How can we praise them? Why? Because it was a very wicked thing. How can we praise a people, or how can we praise a person who had contributed something to an evil? Anyway, war is not something good for the people. So in such a case, how can we praise those two people, Duke of Marlborough and Prince Eugene? That's why little Wilhelmine says, it was a very wicked thing, and in such a case, how can we praise them? Then old Casper correcting his grandchild by saying that, nay, nay, my little girl, quoth he, it was a famous victory. From the explanation of old Casper, both the children, they got an idea that war is something bad, it is something evil, it is a wicked thing. But still, old Casper is trying to clear that, no, my little girl, it was a famous victory. That's what he told when Wilhelmine asked such a question to him. Because she asked him, how can we praise those two leaders? Because war is something something bad, something negative, something evil. It's a wicked thing. So the people who worked for that wicked thing, how can we praise them? So there, old Casper is trying to justify, saying to the little girl that, no, my dear, it was a famous victory. Again, and everybody praised the Duke, who this great fight did win. But what good come out of it at last, quoth little Peterkin. Why, that I cannot tell, said he, but it was a famous victory. Here I repeat once again. And everybody praised the Duke, who this great fight did win. But what good come of it at last, quoth little Peterkin. Why, that I cannot tell, said he, but 'twas a famous victory. Again, old Casper continues his conversation, his explanation. And everybody praised the Duke, so the leader, the ruler of the nation, ruler of the country. So everybody praised him, who this great fight did win. So in the war they succeeded, or they won over the enemy or the other country. So the person who led the army, the person who was ruling the country, he needs a special appreciation, because he had done something impressive. So he says that everybody praised the Duke, who this great fight did win. Here the next grandchild, Peterkin, asking a question to old Casper. But what good come of it at last? But what good come of it at last? So after succeeding or after winning in the war, what good we got from the war? Quoth little Peterkin. Peterkin asked to his grandfather. And it was such an important question. After explaining all these things, you might be remembering from the first stanza still this last stanza, old Casper explained so many number of things. He told a number of things about the war, how much it affected the people, how much it affected his own family, what had happened with his father, his mother, and how much he himself suffered as a child during the war. He explained all these things, but still he was not able to give a satisfactory answer to both the children. That's why Wilhelmine asked, actually, for what purpose they fought each other. There, old Casper was not able to give an answer. Here in this last stanza, little Peterkin is asking to his grandfather, but what good come of it at last? So, okay, you do not know what was the reason behind the war, but tell us about what good we have got from the war, asked little Peterkin. Why, that I cannot tell, said he, but it was a famous victory. Here also old Casper was not able to give an answer. He was not able to satisfy his grandchildren by explaining all the different factors which he knows. He was not able to give a satisfactory answer to his grandchildren. That's why he says at the end, why, that I cannot tell. So what good we have got, I do not know it is. I do not know what was the good thing in the war. What was that something good which people got from the war. But he says that, see the last line of this poem, but 'twas a famous victory. Old Casper was able to repeat only one thing. What was that? It was a famous victory. So dear students, with this we are winding up this chapter, and I hope you have gone through all the different stanzas of the poem very clearly, and you have got a very clear idea about this chapter. So here we are winding up, and the next class we will begin with a new chapter. Still then, I would like to sign off. Thank you.